Hey guys! So, sorry I didn't record anything yesterday. I forgot. It was kind of a crazy day and the day kind of got away from me and I didn't make time to do it. So I apologize, but I was thinking it's kind of like sometimes I'll say, okay, we need to get this done and we need to get this done. And then we don't get it. We want to get it done. So it's just kind of one of those things that happens. We just had other things going on. I was kind of looking at some math, what to do next, and yeah, just trying to get some other stuff done. But anyways, hopefully you guys had a good day yesterday. It looks like the math, you guys are doing really well. Yeah, hope everything's going well. Seeing some great stuff. So anyways, let's get reading. Okay, so remember, Peter's, is his name Peter? I think so. I can't remember. Anyway, the dad's boss is gonna come. So, and Fudge just ate the rose, and then the brother tries it. Why can't I think of his name? Yeah, it's Peter, right? I don't know. Whatever. We'll figure it out. Okay. My mother was all dressed up by the time my father got home with the Yarbys. You never have guessed that Mom spent most of the day in the kitchen. You'd also never have guessed that Fudge ate 2 flowers. He was feeling fine. He even smelled nice, like baby powder. Mrs. Yarby picked him up right away. I knew she would. She looked like a grandmother. That type always makes a big deal out of Fudge. She walked into the living room, cuddling him. Then she sat down on the sofa and bounced Fudge around on her lap. Isn't he the cutest little baby, Mrs. Yarby said. I just love babies. She gave him a big kiss on the top of his head. I kept waiting for somebody to tell her Fudge was no baby, but no one did. My father carried Yarby's suitcases into Fudge's room. When he came back, he introduced me to our company. This is our oldest son, Peter. Yeah. He said to the Yarbys, I'm 9 and in 4th grade, I told them. How do you do, Peter? Mr. Yarby said. Mrs. Yarby just gave me a nod. She was still busy with Fudge. I have a surprise for this dear little boy, she said. It's in my suitcase. Should I go get it? Yes, Fudge shouted. Go get it, go get it. Mrs. Yarby laughed, as if that was the best joke she ever heard. I'll be right back, she told Fudge. She put him down and ran off to find her suitcase. She came back carrying a present tied up with a red ribbon. Ooh, Fudge cried, opening his wide eyes. Goody, he clapped his hands. Mrs. Yarby helped him unwrap his surprise. It was a wind-up train that made a lot of noise. Every time it bumped into something, it turned around and went the other way. Fudge liked it a lot. He likes anything that's noisy. I said, that's a nice train. Mrs. Yarby turned to me. Oh, I have something for you too. Peter, I reminded her. My name is Peter. Yes, well, I'll go get it. Mrs. Yarby left the room again. This time she came back with a flat package. It was wrapped up, too, red ribbon and all. She handed it to me. Fudge stopped playing with his long train enough to come over and see what I got. I took off the paper very carefully in case my mother wanted to save it, and also to show Mrs. Yarby that I'm a lot more careful about things than my brother. I'm not sure she noticed. My present turned out to be a big picture dictionary, the kind I liked when I was about 4 years old. My old one is in Fudge's bookcase now. I don't know much about big boy toys, Mrs. Yarby said. So the lady in the store said a nice book would be a good idea. A nice book would have been a good idea, I thought. But a picture dictionary? That's for babies. I've had my own regular dictionary since I was 8. But I knew I had to be polite, so I said, thank you very much. It's just what I've always wanted. I'm so glad, Mrs. Yarby said. She let out a long sigh and sat back on the sofa. My father offered the Yarbys a drink. Good idea, Mr. Yarby said. What will it be? My father asked. What'll it be? Mr. Yarby repeated, laughing. What do you think, Hatcher? Will be Juicio. That's all we ever drink. Good for your health. Mr. Yarby pounded his chest. Of course, my father said, like he knew it all along. Juicio for everyone. My father told my mother. She went into the kitchen to get it. While my father and Mr. Yarby were discussing Juicio, Fudge disappeared. Just as my mother served everyone a glass of Mr. Yarby's favorite drink, he came back. He was carrying a book. My old, worn-out picture dictionary, the same as the one that Yarby's just gave me. See, Fudge said, climbing up on Mrs. Yarby's lap. See, book? I wanted to vanish. I think my mother and father did too. See, book? Now Fudge held it up over his head. I can use another one, I explained. I really can. That old one is falling apart. I tried to laugh. It's returnable, Mrs. Yarby said. It's silly to keep it if you already have one. She sounded insulted, like it was my fault she brought me something I already had. Mine, Fudge said. He closed the book and held it tight to his chest. Mine, mine, mine. It's the thought that counts, my mother said. It was so nice of you to think of our boys. Then she turned to Fudge. Put the book away now, Fudgy. Isn't it Fudgy's bedtime, my father hinted. Oh, yes, I think it is, my mother said, scooping him up. Say goodnight, Fudgy. Goodnight, Fudgy, my brother said, waving at us. Fudge was supposed to fall asleep before we sat down to dinner, but just in case, my mother put a million little toys in his crib to keep him busy. I don't know who my mother thought she was fooling, because all we know was that Fudge can climb out of his crib anytime he wants to. I think I'll read a couple more pages since I didn't read yesterday. He stayed away until we were in the middle of a roast beef. Then he came in carrying Dribble's bowl. He walked right up to Mrs. Yarby. He thought she was his new best friend. See, he said, holding Dribble under her nose. See, Dribble. Mrs. Yarby shrieked, oh, I can't stand reptiles. Get that thing away from me. Fudge looked disappointed. So he showed Dribble to Mr. Yarby. See, he said, Hatcher! Mr. Yarby boomed. Make him get that thing out of here. I wondered why Mr. Yarby called my father Hatcher. Didn't he know his first name was Warren? And I didn't like the way Mr. and Mrs. Yarby both called Dribble a thing. I jumped up. Give him to me, I told Fudge. I took Dribble and his bowl and marched into my room. I inspected my turtle all over. He seemed all right. I didn't want to make a big scene in front of our company, but I was mad. I mean, really mad. That kid knows he's not allowed to touch my turtle. Peter, my father called, come and finish your dinner. When I got back to the table, I heard Mrs. Yarby say, it must be interesting to have children. We never had any ourselves. But if we did, Mr. Yarby told my father, we teach them some manners. I'm a firm believer in old-fashioned good manners. So are we, Howard, my father said in a weak voice. I thought Mr. Yarby had a lot of nerve to hint that we had no manners. Didn't I pretend to like their dumb old picture dictionary? If that isn't good manners, then I don't know what is. My mother excused herself and carried Fudge back to my room. I guess she put him into his crib again. I hope she told him to keep his hands off my things. We didn't hear from him again until dessert. Just as my mother was pouring the coffee, he ran in wearing my rubber gorilla mask from last Halloween. It's a very real-looking mask. I guess that's why Mrs. Yarby screamed so loud. If she hadn't made so much noise, my mother probably wouldn't have spilled the coffee all over the floor. My father grabbed Fudge and pulled the gorilla mask off him. That's not funny, Fudge, he said. Funny? Fudge laughed. Funny, 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 funny. Yes, Sir Hatcher, Mr. Yarby said. Old-fashioned manners. By the time I'm sure my father was sorry, the Yarbys weren't staying at a hotel. Okay, guys. I promise I'll read tomorrow. I hope you guys have a good day, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye.